Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. It's officially our 100th numbered episode. We got a couple more in there, so we've already technically passed 100, but today is a celebration, right?
Happy anniversary, sir.
100 episodes. So that's pretty cool. Excited about that, and really excited that we are getting closer and closer to kickoff. We got next week. The following week is game week, so pretty much only one more week left at camp, and then it is Notre Dame week, and so we are getting closer to that. So that's exciting. Looking forward to enjoy starts of the season, and this will be no different as this is a big one. This is going to be a huge game.
I mean, I know it's kind of an obvious statement, but I don't ever remember being as excited for a first game as this.
Yeah, it's been a while.
There's been a lot of good ones, but usually it falls on the second week.
Yeah,
the big game of the season.
I think and it's not this.
Like Virginia Tech was cool in 15.
I was excited for that game, but that was, I mean, you're coming off the national championship, plus you just want to beat them.
You got revenge on your mind, right? You should have never lost to them the year before.
So that was that one. Yeah, but yeah, this is probably every year you're excited for them, but you don't get a lot of years like this. I mean, even last year, you don't get a lot of years where you open up against Minnesota, like a conference game. It's normally, you're playing, you don't actually open up a lot of times against a MAC school. It's usually that non-MAC school, Florida Atlantic type, it just seems like.
Yeah. I think Ohio State, I mean, maybe not as much recently. Beforehand, though, I do think that, like in the Tressel years, I think they had a lot of like MAC schools or little Ohio schools they opened up against. But I think you're right. Since Urban's been there, that's not really who they've opened up against. It was kind of like you were saying, kind of just that like non-Power 5 conference team.
Yeah. So it's just been, it's just a different type of thing. I mean, so yeah, pretty stoked right now that this is going to be a big game, prime time coming up. And so we're going to get into tonight, officially just real quick. I mean, we're not going to really discuss it, but the game is officially a top 5 matchup, as both teams are number 2 and number 5 respectively. Ohio State and Notre Dame's Buckeyes 2, Notre Dame 5. So they are that is in both polls. So this is a top 5 matchup. So that will be big. Ohio State beats them, as we know how this stuff goes as it comes towards the playoffs. Obviously, just win them all and you're in the playoffs.
Right, yeah.
So, you don't have to worry about it, but it's a resume builder. Even if Notre Dame drops a few games through the years, at least every other team in the country, if you're in the SEC, you get credit for
right. Who you beat when you beat them.
Yeah.
What
so
their rank was then.
They'll be like Notre Dame drops 3 games. Like, well, that was a preseason poll. That was
right. It won't be, how Alabama beat a team, what they were ranked at the time when Alabama beat.
Yeah. So technically it should be, that should be counted as a top 5 win for the Buckeyes through the season. But, like I said, just got to win them all. And the resume builder then comes down to what at the end of the season, you win them all, you're going to be going into the playoff either 1 or 2. And it just, it depends who gets slotted where. And, and so it will be a big game for the Buckeyes. So that's pretty excited about that. All right. So basically where we're going to run down through tonight is we're going to talk about Jayden Bonsu committing to Ohio State. We're going to talk about Evan Pryor's injury, which I'm sure everybody knows about at this point. We're going to talk about Larry Johnson's press conference yesterday. And then we're just going to kind of talk about the defense in general. There are a lot of things have come out over the last several days from, you've got coaches talking about the defense. You got offensive players, offensive coaches talking about the defense. Bobby Carpenter had a big thing about the defense. A bunch of ex-Buckeyes were invited in yesterday, and Joey Galloway put up a video about the defense. So the defense was the big focus coming into camp, and it seems like that has been the big talk over the last couple of days, and mainly positive. So, I mean, we'll be discussing that just at the end of the show, just kind of what a good defense really means to them, because I think it means to the world that it really makes them a difficult team to beat by anybody in the country. So, we'll definitely get into that. All right, start the show. We'll talk about, we'll go good news first, and then we'll talk about Pryor. So, Jayden Bonsu, big safety. I mean, was he like 6'1"?
6'1", 210.
Yeah.
Like that. He's already a big boy.
Yeah. So he commits to Ohio State. I believe he's out of, is it
New Jersey?
New Jersey. That's right.
He's from the same, I believe he's from the same school as Cody Simon.
That is right. Yep. I knew he did play with who come from one of the same schools as a current player. But yeah, so big get for the Buckeyes. I mean, obviously after everything with with Caleb Downs, we had that bad July, and now we're having a good August.
Yeah.
So with recruiting, so we've hit a couple of our marks here. Obviously need to keep that room stocked, both in the cornerback room, quarterbacks and safeties. This guy definitely seems like if he stays at safety, he's going to be kind of that Court Williams style, or big body.
And you need those type of, you need at least one of those guys out on the field for you.
Or he might even move down to linebacker. I don't know. I mean, he's such a big kid already that, I mean, he easily can grow into if he's not done, he seems like he probably could put on a couple more inches, and then he could easily put on a few more pounds. And then that's,
No, I mean, in Noel's defense and the defense of today, I mean, that's, as long as he fills out his frame, 6'1's plenty big enough to be a linebacker.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, looking at Kobe Dean, which he got, I still think that was like the shaft of shafts in the NFL draft. I know he has some injury concerns, but that guy is a stud.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember how far he fell, like 4th, 5th round.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was something ridiculous, but yep. So definitely, big get for the Buckeyes. So they're still, what are they? Are they 3rd again now in the recruiting rankings? Or they're still holding at 4? I can't remember.
I don't know what everyone else is doing. I don't follow it all that closely, but last I heard was they were 3rd, because Ohio State basketball is 3rd and Ohio State football is 3rd.
But they're 2nd when it comes to actual the recruit average. Only Alabama's in front of them. I think Alabama's a 94 something, and then Ohio State's like a 93.
Yeah,
like almost 94, I believe. And so that's kind of be expected. Alabama has had an unbelievable now how many weeks in a.
Alabama's Alabama. They're going to do that.
They rolled this summer. Nobody can even compare to them how much they
Roll Tide.
They rolled recruits that they were on. They were on a pace. They're basically pulling in every major recruit.
They do that every year.
But and also I saw just speaking. You think about Ohio State and Notre Dame, or Ohio State and Alabama, that they're considered, they have the top 4 kids in the country coming into the season, with Alabama having 1 and 2 with the running back. I can't think of his name right now. And Bryce Young is number 2.
Will Anderson, linebacker.
Yeah, linebacker. And then CJ and Jackson are 3rd and 4. So those are the.
And then Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson in the top 5. So what they get the best kids. Ohio State's been. It's been basically Alabama's out pretty much recruited everybody forever, and Ohio State's pretty much in that next group.
Yeah,
so.
that's how. You've got 3 schools that consistently do that.
Yeah.
Clemson has good classes, too, and there's the other schools that, like, your A&Ms, that they usually do well, but they don't show it on the field, so it's hard for me to give them too much credit.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching. Not trying to get crazy off into recruiting here, but just based off of last year's recruiting, I'm definitely interested in see what A&M looks like this year, because
I'm interested to see what their defensive line looks like in 3 years if they don't get, or 2 years, even next year, if they don't lose a bunch to the transfer portal.
Yeah. So I definitely think
that's the best defensive line recruiting class ever.
Yeah, definitely interested in seeing that. So good news this week on the Bonsu front. On the current team front, though, I mean, I know some people are saying that, there's some people that are, saying he's just a third string running back. And I mean, I get that, the bulk of your carries are still healthy, still playing and stuff like that. But they definitely, you can, by just reading between the lines, that they threw in a couple different types of packages that they tried to get Pryor on the field just because of his explosiveness, his athleticism. So, I mean, it hurts in that point. And obviously you never want to see anybody go down with a knee injury or any type of season ending injury. I mean, those are hard. Feel bad for the kid, but he'll be back next year, get a good rehab in, and, he'll, be able to compete for the job or be on the field. Basically, probably, I would say the Mayan Williams role, if Williams is not,
Williams balls out and is on his way to the NFL. Yeah.
So I definitely will see that. Again, sucks for the kid. I hate to see that. Did like that some Notre Dame fan going at him a little bit on Twitter or whatever. And
that guy's a douchebag, man. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold it back.
Yeah.
That guy starts shit with everybody.
Yeah. So I like that he threw back a little bit on that one. So some funny remarks on that. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, I mean, it is a shame. I'm going to kind of sound just like you on this. He is the third string running back, so there's not a lot of meaningful touches for him in the offense. But from everything you heard, he is that good of a player. They had to get him on the field.
Yeah.
At least had to try to, he's such a good player. You got to try to keep him happy for next year.
Yeah.
And I mean, sounds like, they had a little bit of that. But when you have someone that explosive, and especially like, he's a third string running back, like, that guy could come in as long as, he can field a punt, field a kickoff.
Yeah.
He could be an explosive kickoff return.
And I think that's might be where that could hurt him maybe. Or I'm not even hurt him.
Not even necessarily hurt him, but
I think that's probably they were going to try to get him some touches this year into some of those games, see what he could do on special teams and stuff. Because, I mean, even if they got it, even if they threw a couple plays in it, I just think he would have got more than like, because you're expecting some pretty good blowouts, and he would have got a lot of catches in those, or a lot of touches in those types of things. But in normal game games are still on the line and stuff, like I could see him where they get him in to get 5 touches, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe 4 touches. That he's just kind of you kind of got this interesting play drawn up for him, maybe a crazy wheel route or something that just something or reverse, anything that can get the ball in his hands, and that there's not a lot of film on him, and it's something that against a Notre Dame or something like this that we're going to throw him in there where you know nothing about him, and let's see if you're ready for something crazy to come out of it. And so that's going, that's not going to be there anymore. But like I said, there was only going to be so many touches on it, because you get some between Henderson and Mayan, and then you get so many explosive athletes at the wide receiver that, I mean, there's so many guys that you can do crazy wheel routes with, and
right. No,
different things.
I get that. It's just, you can't always replicate the explosiveness from one guy though. And I mean, there might be a time in the game where, you need that to do, to set the pace for your team, that you might be having trouble moving the ball on someone, and you need to get him in there, break a big touchdown and break a big gain. So that's something that, they will be missing, because I don't know if they have anyone at that position that can replicate what he can do. Of course, like you said, you got plenty of fast guys on that team though. So you can move someone around from receiver and be creative with it. I mean, everyone says Ryan Day's an offensive genius. So I imagine he can find a creative way to motion a guy into the backfield or something, get him the ball and let him just run with it.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, return game, that would have been helpful if you don't want Igbuka taking the kickoffs. If, God forbid he gets hurt taking a kickoff and you want to replace him with someone else that's very explosive, Same with punt returns, and also just the kids' progressions into next year. I mean, it does delay him a little bit, even though I think we're in agreement he's not going to get a ton of meaningful snaps this year.
Yeah.
But if he's if he's your garbage time back, though,
he was going to get a lot there.
He would get a lot of work.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so switching topics, going from offense over to defense here. So Larry Johnson, he talked yesterday. Again, just like so many of these guys, love when Larry talks. Yeah, he's just very smart. You can tell he's just years of knowledge that he has.
Why his grandfather?
Just wanted to start off with, it was the last question, but he did say that he has his retirement is still way off, in the distance, pretty much, that he's loving coaching. There were some rumors that he was considering retirement. I don't think that those are BS rumors. There was some
was he 70?
Yeah, so maybe it's just, he just doesn't want to talk about it right now. Maybe it's that, we're going to get into, the next topic here, that maybe it's just that the defense has bred some new life into him a little bit, and he likes what they're doing. But, I just thought that was an interesting point, that he did at least say that. He didn't that's a discussion for another day or anything like that.
He said that's a non-factor.
Yeah. So, that was cool. There's a couple of points just to start off with. So he started, I believe his first or second question was specifically on Sawyer and JTT. He's both just praised how, just different both of them look, being a full year with Mick now, and just how, you could definitely tell that, Mick's program definitely helped him out a lot. And, we've been hearing it, and I definitely see, he seems like, just from the way he was talking, that I think they're going to be special, both of them. And
it's kind of crazy how the one gained a bunch of weight and the other one slimmed down a little bit, and just kind of getting to the same weight, both of them right around this, the same spot. But yeah, I think they both are going to be very special. I haven't decided which one's going to have more sacks than the other one.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about that, but yeah, they're both just, pretty much on any recruiting site when they came out, you're talking about two top 5 defensive, or two, not even defensive, 2 top 5 players in the country. So
on a lot of sites, they were the 2 top defensive ends, and or the top 2 out of 3 defensive ends. So it was they were both extremely special to get. Speaking of kind of the position that we think that Sawyer is going to be playing, that Jack Leo position, that it sounds like that Baptiste has also been taking a lot of snaps at that, which I could see. I think we talked about that probably before when Knowles kind of came in. We both kind of said that we thought that that could be a role that Baptiste could be really good at. And also Pelier's been doing a lot of practicing at that position, which to me makes sense. I think that could be opportunities, in different spots, maybe 3rd and longs and stuff like that, where you get a kind of a third linebacker body into the game without, moving some of the other pieces, without moving a safety off the field.
And there's still a role in, defenses of today for big linebackers that you can still get them out onto the field. So, that's just a heck of a job by them, finding a spot that he could play at. They were trying that in the beginning of the spring with Mitchell Melton. Unfortunately, he got injured, but I think that's a role that, a bigger linebacker can still find a spot on this defense, doing something like that when you're not necessarily playing, your run heavy 2 tight end teams.
Yeah. It sounds like he had a couple of questions about his rotation. I don't know how accurate this is going to be at the end of the day. You try to focus in at 8 guys, maybe 10 guys, but he said he thinks he could go 12 deep, possibly. And it's kind of like what you're kind of hearing about the defensive tackles is that they're looking really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And that's, and it seems like, the end rotation's looking really, really, really good. So, he mentioned Teron Vincent by name, that, he just, he seems like he's taken that, from what he did in the Rose Bowl. He's, building off of that. He mentioned Michael Hall, how he's been rotating and,
I love Kevin Wilson said about just how, think about the fit, because like Ohio State offensive line isn't that deep experience, whatnot. And Ohio State's defensive line is. So imagine when your threes are going against your threes and Mike Hall is, the defensive tackle against your third string offensive line. So Kevin Wilson said, he's lining up as a 3. He ain't a 3.
Yeah. And then Larry's like, well, he isn't a 3.
Right.
So that was funny. He mentioned, Tyreek has to take the, he was, very special with, being able to thresh the passer, but what'd he say? He called him like a baby, your baby of your kind of your one thing. And now you got to learn your other thing.
Yeah.
Did say he needs to get better with his run stopping, but
does that worry you at all, or you think that's just kind of carryover from last year?
I don't think they have so much depth that it doesn't really worry me.
But you got to be able to stop the run.
Yeah,
I mean, you want his body, you want him out on the field against your Michigans, your Notre Dames. He has to stop the run. I know, but I mean, the way he talked about Michael Hall and Ty Hamilton, and there's a couple other bodies on there that I think that, if those guys are out there or Teron Vincent's out there, I think they could stop the run too. I know, but that's just a different type of dude than what you got on the rest of your defensive line. You want to be able to maximize him as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not scared. I just don't want to see Tyreek in a position where he's getting benched because he has a huge deficiency in his game.
And I didn't read anything into that. I think Larry, the more I just read of Larry is that I just think he was just kind of saying that that's what he needs to, that's coming into the season.
Right.
That's
something to build on from
I don't think he was, I didn't come off, at least to me in the press conference, that he was saying that he hasn't showed it yet in the press conference, because I don't think that's how the question was asked at him. So
right.
Like maybe if the question was asked a little differently and he worded it a little differently, and maybe I would have read into it a little differently. I'm not reading into it yet that that's what they mean. I mean, it definitely seems like, I can't see anybody else that they're talking about. They're going 12 deep. It definitely seems like,
he's defintle a part of it. And I think he's going to get your most reps at a 3. Unless Vincent comes out and he's just a beast, which, I hope he is.
Yeah.
Like if Teron Vincent is that good that he deserves to be playing the most snaps, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I have never been the one to say, take anything away from the better player.
Yeah.
But if it's just because he's the older guy and Tyreek deserves more snaps, Tyreek better be getting more snaps.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think that the defensive line was so weird last year to me that I think he kind of got to the point where he probably wore down a lot too, that and they just didn't have a lot of depth there that could really provable depth. They had the depth on the team. It seems like the depth this year, at least, knock on wood, we'll see here in a couple of weeks. Seems like the way everybody's talking, the depth's provable this year, that they're playing, they're doing a lot of things. So I don't think in a 4-down situation, he might only be in the game 1 or 2 plays. So, I think a good rotation also helps him, that he's not getting worn down into games, and, being a big body when you're fresh, you might not be the greatest run stopper in the world, but he should be good enough, and that with everybody else, they're fine. Where he gets worried if you don't have the depth and you're not getting a good rotation, then if he's not the best in the world, but he has to play a lot,
he's getting worn out.
He's getting worn. He's getting
already not doing great.
And and he was a freshman. He didn't have the conditioning level probably to where they wanted. So he probably if you really go back, you don't really spend a lot of time looking at the trenches and stuff like that when you're actually watching a football game. I bet there's a lot of situations in where he might not even been fully in a position yet. When you get tired, you get tired. You're slower getting up, you're just slower getting down. I think probably a lot of that is where some of that pushing it around came from.
Oh yeah. And I'm not overly concerned about it or not. I just, just make it talk. But just want to see. I mean, if that's what he's saying. That's his critique. But I agree. I think it's more so that was his like what he needed to work on coming into this season.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that's like them saying that it hasn't been solved already.
Yeah. He was talking about he mentioned just it seems like that that they're forcing even right here and on. I mean, this is the best offense they're going to play all season, and they're playing right now until you get to the playoffs. And he's talking about even in practice they're forcing Stroud and the other quarterbacks. I mean, well, they said he didn't specifically say Stroud, but so maybe. Who knows? Maybe Stroud isn't having to hold it for an extra second longer, but he said that they are forcing their quarterbacks to hold it for an extra second. And, that translates in the game because, if that extra second, then that, if they can get to that to the quarterback, that's better for the back end.
Oh, yeah.
And the back end holding their coverage is better for the line. And so it all kind of works into just, kind of a symbiotic, circle,
Right, you make that quarterback, you sack him a couple times, you make him think that he has to get rid of the ball quicker, and then he throws in an interception. So it all works together.
I mean, it's definitely, he said, he definitely has an alpha on the team, but he ain't going to talk about it. And he did say that there's, some things that they're doing a little differently, but he ain't going to talk about that neither. And so that was kind of funny. But I mean, it just, and I know so much of this stuff can be coach speak and stuff like that. But it just, again, as we get now, and we'll be talking about the defense just as general here in a second, but like, I definitely took a lot of positivity out of it. That
is the most energy the group's had since he's been there.
I mean, that was a big deal too. That it's just, and we've heard that now from a couple people that it just seems like that they're really mixing it up with, with the defense or with the offense. And, that's a good sign. If, if they are definitely competing and not making it easy on this offense, which is a really, really, really good offense, then that just means everything for the season. And, obviously there's still questions about toughness and stuff like that, that honestly ain't going to get answered.
You can't answer until you're on the field.
I mean, Notre Dame is going to be that, the first question of that, where they're at when it comes into there. But, I'm really, so far really excited with, what we're hearing, just in general. Any other things with LJ you want to talk about? I mean, I think I broadly touched almost, it was like an 18-minute thing, broadly touched pretty much everything he kind of talked about. I'm trying to think if there was any other big like points he tried to make.
No, I feel good with all that. And we're still a couple weeks away from our defensive prediction. So I'll figure out who's going to get more sacks between JT and Jack Sawyer by that point.
Yeah, I think we'll probably
Zach Harrison might lead the team in sacks. Who knows?
Yeah, I think we'll probably, unless like something crazy happens, I think we'll probably do our predictions, like kind of just season predictions next week, because the following week we'll probably
be talking game
and just kind of specifically we're feeling about Notre Dame. All right, so defense in general. So a lot of interesting things have come out the last couple of weeks, and I wouldn't say that, you can kind of say that, Kevin Wilson, because he talked about this is definitely a different defense than it was the year ago.
Well, I hope to God it is.
And, but part of that could be coach speak, right?
Yeah.
So like Ryan Day can very easily tell all the coaches, like, we're not, we're going to talk up the defense. We want them to have,
confidence,
good confidence and stuff like that. So we're not going to go out there. Nobody's going to bash the defense, or not bash the defense. Just, it's all going to be, praise. They're looking a lot better, blah, blah, blah. I mean, stuff like that happens, right? The players, you can kind of say that to the players, like, we don't want you guys to, don't say anything negative about the defense, but players are players, and players let things slip.
Yeah.
A lot of offensive players have talked over the last couple days, and every one of them almost to a T is like, yeah, the defense is, it's much more competitive. They are attacking us, there are plays that they're winning.
Like, well, right. And that's, they're confusing them, and they're being ultra aggressive. And they're winning the battles.
And you just don't necessarily get coach speak from your players.
Right.
Like, you know, a player will slip up and say something that they didn't mean to say.
Yeah. And that, I mean, but to go back from everything we heard, like we heard the defense had a great scrimmage. They looked really good. They've looked really good. But then the day before the scrimmage, I mean, we heard from multiple people that offense was just kind of like throwing the ball all over the defense that day. So, I mean, you win some, you lose some, you know, someone's got to win the play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a bad thing either way. You know, you want to know your defense is good. Like, I hope no one's getting discouraged about the offense. It's like, oh, the defense is winning reps. This is supposed to be the best offense in the country. Like, it is the best offense in the country. So if the defense is winning plays this time around, that's a really good thing. And I'm not sure they won any reps last year.
And the defense, you know, they have athletes all over that defense to where they should have, even against this offense, they should have series and reps where they actually win. And, you know, so that, I mean, that's a good thing. Like, you know, you're talking about the scrimmage, like, you know, kind of, you know, listening to Bobby talk this week on his, or the other day on his little, his YouTube show that he does. I mean, he had a lot of good things to say about everybody all over the field. But I mean, he's just talking about, I mean, he said he would love to go shake Jim Knowles' hand because, you know, just how good the defense was looking.
I hope it's fixed that quickly.
Like,
I really hope so.
And I think there's going to be some headaches and stuff. I'm not going to say that there isn't. I think that you're going to have different times where guys still get lost in different things. But I think Knowles' whole philosophy, and he said they want to be simple but multiple. And I heard a couple guys actually say that on the offensive side of the ball. It's like, yeah, they're not really showing a lot, but they're doing a lot. And, you know,
right.
And you don't realize, I mean, that's kind of how his coverages are, that, you know, he can do a lot of different things out of multiple coverages, but, you know, are they in a 3-back look, or are they in cover 1 or cover 3? And
right,
like, you don't know pre-snap. Are they cover 2 or they cover 4? You don't know in pre-snap. And that's how he teaches them. And it's all about simplicity. They're not thinking a lot of what they have to do. You know, the blitzes are easy. The coverage is easy itself. It's just being lined up in the right position and know, you know, I'm here right now, but I'm dropping, you know, right, or I'm coming up. And that's really all you have to know. And, you know, that's.
Well, I mean, and like the way they make it sound is like, you know, Knowles, he might have 3 different pre-snap looks and run the same play 3 times in a row. He might have the same pre-snap look 3 plays in a row, and he might run, you know, 3 different plays. He might have each safety do a different job on each different snap. That he might run the same play, but the different guys doing the different role. Like, that's what they're saying is just, you know, they're trying to cause as much confusion as possible for the quarterback, so he has to hold on to the ball.
Yeah. So, I mean, and, you know, and so you've had now a couple offensive guys talking about this. You had offensive coaches talking about this. Bobby Carpenter's talking about this. I mean, and I know it's one play, you know, Joey Galloway puts up this bit, but I mean,
who is that? Is that Eichenberg?
I think it was probably Eichenberg.
Tim or Sawyer, I think. I mean, it looks like a number 30 something, or maybe it's Gabe Powers. I don't know. It could be the freshman.
But like, and I get it. It's one play, but you know, until the Rose Bowl last year, I didn't see Eichenberg ever make that play. Like, they could have used that play several times.
Tommy came on at the end of the year,
but they could have used that play several times against Michigan.
Yeah, that was a rough game for everyone.
But, you know, and it just seems like what that tells you is that the defensive line, and we've heard this from when the offensive line talk, that, you know, they are getting, the offensive line is having a harder time getting up to the linebackers, and, you know, they're making it more difficult on them. And that's a lot of what this line is supposed to do. I mean, that's kind of how Knowles teaches it.
Yeah.
It's about attacking the offensive line on run plays. It's about attacking the offensive line because you want to throw their blocks off. You want to throw the pulling guard off. And then it's kind of, you know, you got safeties coming downhill and you got the linebackers coming downhill, and they're the ones that kind of clean everything up. And, you know, and if it's not a running play, it's about, again, attacking and getting to the quarterback and not worrying necessarily about everything else, because you're supposed to trust your coverage behind you that, you know, they're going to clean it up. So, And, I mean, obviously, there'll be some interesting things that offenses can do off of that. If you're coming downhill hard, it opens you up being against screens and draws and different thing like that. But I think kind of like Knowles' philosophy is, if they do something crazy and they get us aggressive and they go score a touchdown off of it, whatever, we have a really great offense. We'll get them the next time around. It's either about getting 3 and outs or, it's not about letting teams drive on you and just rip you apart. And it's about, it's either we're going to get you off the field very fast, or you might get lucky and get a touchdown.
And you and I have talked about this in the past. Part of defense is accepting that you make a mistake, you just make it 1,000 miles an hour. That maybe you can recover it, but what the hell? I mean, you made an aggressive mistake. Whatever. You got the ball right back. You got a great offense, but with the crap that really got to me last year was the indecisiveness.
Yeah,
it's like, people didn't know where they were supposed to be on the field, and they didn't even get going because they didn't know where they were supposed to be on the field.
Yeah.
Do something like
if you're going to let somebody go score easy, I'd much rather be that you were just overly aggressive and not that you just weren't in the place and the guy was just wide open.
I'd rather just see you run, the other side of the field and just knock someone's head off instead of not even know that a football game is going on around you and you're just standing there flat footed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's important that, because you are going to give up big plays with the aggression. But that's okay because you got a great offense. You're getting the ball right back to them.
Yeah.
You can't give up every series.
Yeah.
You gotta get your stops, which we have no reason to believe they won't.
I think again, we have to see it here in a couple of weeks, but I think what we're gonna see is that we're gonna see a lot more 3 and outs than they've gotten over the last several years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see kind of back to where they were a few years ago with sacks. We're going to, I don't know. His defenses have never really been known so much for turnovers, but he also never had athletes like this.
Yeah.
So, you get a corner or a safety that's an Ohio State athlete in the right place, you can get picks. And
I love turnovers, but punts are fine too.
Yeah. And, you got ball hawks in this defense. And I think he can be I think the whole simple but multiple then goes in a lot of different ways with him. It's part of it's that, he wants in coverages that, it's all simple, but you can go multiple different ways. I also think he means with players. It's not about that we have 10 linebackers playing. It's that we're going to have 4 linebackers playing. We have our starters and we have our 2 backups. And unless if we're doing a game and every now and then they might rotate a 3rd linebacker in, but I think to start, they're going to, that type of stuff's going to Court Williams. Then, they just want to be bigger at the one safety spot and times where they might need a 3rd linebacker. But
when you get your Wisconsins and your Iowas, you're getting a 3rd linebacker in there.
And there's going to be times, but I could also see times that if Court's ready to do it, they might have, because Court could be kind of like a Darren Lee or C. Grant, somebody like that. Darren
Lee didn't come off the field against bigger teams.
So that's like that you can play with that smaller linebacker, and that could be Court Williams. So I think that's a possibility, but I think that's kind of his way. That's like when you think about Pele playing out, that jack position at times that. He's not going to have a lot of guys. I mean, obviously, in the defensive line, because he said it and Larry said it, they're going to do their normal rotations. They're going to try to get at minimum 10 guys because he said 10, Larry said 12. So that's what they want. And so the way I look at it, if they're ready, you're going to have at least 10 guys rotating in on your defensive line. But he's not going to do a lot of back end rotation, but he wants to have a good backup at every position, and the backups are going to play.
Yeah,
and
right.
So
they always do in his defense.
So, and I think that's kind of the way to think about it. But if you can have against, bigger teams, a guy like Court Williams playing more at safety, and, maybe a guy like Pele at different times playing, when you want a kind of a linebacker body instead of a defensive lineman body playing at that jack position. I think that's where they're going to get very multiple too. And it's going to be about just creating the right matchups for the personnel that they want to be in there.
Just as long as they're not doing line changes like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, he said that they're not.
I don't expect them to at all.
Yeah, like that. I think he says he wants to have his starters, and in the back end, he wants his starters and he wants a backup basically at every one of those positions. And I think that's what you're going to see that they're going to be primarily playing with. And, and they have some good guys behind him if there's an injury or if there's blowouts and stuff like that. But, I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I agree. Anything like specifically? Okay, so because we're talking about defense. So from everything we have heard, I'm not gonna you can't really judge, best unit or anything like that. But which unit is going to surprise you with the biggest leap from production last year? Because you have a lot to choose from, because that defense was putrid last year.
Yeah, and the defensive line didn't play what they normally would play.
Safeties were bad, mostly. I mean, it's hard for me to say that because Ronnie Hickman was still good last year.
I think the safeties were probably. I mean, I know there's different things. And he left. I can't think of who was the back safety.
Bryson Shaw.
He was probably my least favorite in the back end.
He had some rough spots. He caught a good interception against Michigan.
Yeah. He actually improved a little bit as the season went on too. I mean,
They just didn't know where they were supposed to be, man.
They didn't have a lot of
Barnes wasn't.
They didn't really have the type of guys like Barnes. Just didn't teach them things they needed to know.
Their defense was really simple, but they didn't know what they were doing, and it was just really really predictable, and it was bad all around.
And I hope
back to the question.
I would have to say, I think, and you think about what the guys that they've recruited, that it shouldn't be this, but I think it's going to be the defensive line that I think that I don't know if there's a Chase Young on this defensive line, but I think that we've heard some comparisons to that 2017 defensive line that is just that they had a lot of guys that could do a lot of different things. And I kind of feel like that's what they're going to be like. And that you're going to see them kind of being back to old school kind of Ohio State defensive line. And they're going to get to the quarterback a lot more this year than they've had in the last couple of years, in my opinion. And that's just going to help everything click into place. And it's going to let Knowles' safety-centric defense really come into play, where he can really that's going to buy him the time that he needs to really get the back end into place. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that's what's going to happen. So probably the defensive line was the most productive on the team last year, but that wasn't up to Ohio State standards, in my opinion.
I'd say cornerbacks were the best unit last year.
Probably. I'll agree with that. I would say they're probably 1A, 1B, and it could go either way. I mean, I know the defensive line wasn't at where I would say I would want them against Michigan, but I think the most year that, it's probably between those two positions, that the defensive line and the corners were probably the best units on the field. But I think the defensive line was still pretty good. I just think that there's still a lot of room for improvement, and that's where we're going to see that improvement.
I think it's going to be the linebackers, to be honest.
I like the line. I think I like where the linebackers are at right now, but I want to see them before I want to say that they're back to, James Laurinaitis and, those types of guys out there.
What we hadn't seen from the linebackers last year mostly was just a confidence to play aggressive, come downhill. They were always, lost in space somewhere, getting blocked or not knowing where they were supposed to be. Or if they were in a zone coverage, they were guarding grass and they weren't guarding they weren't, what do you call that? Pattern matching within the zone. So, I mean, there was a lot of things that they just they didn't play aggressive until almost they got to the Rose Bowl. And then it was just we got to turn it on now or we're going to lose to Utah in the Rose Bowl. And, they found a way to make it work. Jim Knowles is a linebacker coach. Mm-hmm. He is going to get those guys playing downhill, playing fast, playing confident. And it's just going to be night and day from what you saw last year. They're a year older, they're a year stronger, a year more experienced, but then you got an actual guy that's going to, not only give them the teachings, that they know now what to do. He's going to instill that confidence in them that they're just going to attack. And I think that they are going to be the most improved, most surprising unit on this defense.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I
think Eichenberg and Steele are really good.
I'm looking forward to that first game against Notre Dame because I think that, again, so much of Knowles' defense is when they're running the ball is that, you want the havoc from the defensive line against the offensive line. And then you need those guys they need to react fast to come up the back ends. The safeties and the linebackers have to react fast to come up. And, so I think if it's just been a while since we've really seen it from the linebackers that's, and that was always the thing, Ohio State's always been, I mean, there's always been that, they Big Ten teams aren't fast enough to play, Southern style football. And that's always been BS with the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes have always been fast enough sideline to sideline, but sometimes they would get out of play. And that's always been maybe their weakest part is, even though they're really good at it, that if you get the linebackers out of place going sideline to sideline, you can catch them there. Where you never caught them was up the middle. That's what they come downhill, and you always had a big time run stuffer, middle linebacker, and another big linebacker in there on the strong side. I believe it was always the strong side backer, and they cleared up everything in the middle, and you just you could argue you haven't had it the last couple seasons, but you definitely didn't have it last season.
Right.
And, I mean, so much of, Michigan's, when you think specifically of the Michigan game, so much of that was in between between the tackles, and you just you haven't been used to that ever. And so I think that's the big thing is this, getting
a lot of that was the line too, though.
Yeah. I think both things are being improved, and that, it's about knock those guys off their blocks at the line, and then let the linebackers and safeties do what linebackers and safeties do.
Clean that up behind the line of scrimmage.
I mean, you're still gonna, kind of when you think about run defense, when you think about the best run defense is really, some of that's defensive tackles, but so much of that is, when you think about stuffing the run, it's about just the line have their jobs, and that's to make the offensive line uncomfortable and blocking and taking up blocks. And, linebackers and safeties, those are the guys who make the tackles when it comes to running the football. And, and just that the defensive line made it too easy last year at different times. And then you had linebackers that were out of place or didn't know where they were supposed to be. And, those, specifically when you think about Minnesota and you think about Oregon and you think about Michigan and different times Penn State and Nebraska and some of those games and Utah even until the defense started playing a lot better, is that offensive line were getting way too easily up to linebackers who didn't know where they were supposed to be.
Right.
So they weren't reacting fast, and the defense line was doing nothing to help them out. So, I think in those specific positions, I do think they're going to improve. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait. Can't wait for the season. So next week, whatever news comes about, and we'll do some predictions then.
Yep. And then the following week will be Notre Dame and getting ready for that game. So
before we leave, because I did want to circle back. I know you said we weren't going to spend a lot of time on the AP top 25, and that's great. I don't want to spend too much time on it either. My only real thing I just want to pick out, are you surprised at all Penn State is not a top 25 team? I just find that weird.
Yeah.
I cannot
are they in the coaches?
I honestly don't know. I pay less attention to that than the AP.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And I'm not, they didn't have a great season last year.
Yeah. Franklin's, I don't know. His teams have hopefully that means hopefully they're not good again this year. Cause that's kind of how 16 happened, was they were no good in 14 and 15. And then they came out nowhere 16, 17 and 18 were okay.
Yeah.
And then they start going down again. I don't need what happened in 16 to happen in 22. We don't need some shocking loss in Happy Valley.
I don't think they have a Saquon on the team. I've never been impressed with what's his
Does
face.
Saquon even do good in 16 though? I don't remember. He probably had stretches.
Yeah,
That was a weird game. He did really good in 15.
Yeah. And what's his face? Who's the damn their
Chase McSorley?
Yeah, but who's their quarterback this year? Is it?
Oh, it's it's supposed to be Clifford again.
Yeah, I never thought Clifford. Clifford is not even a poor man's McSorley.
Well, I mean, Will Levis was better than him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason the game even got semi close in 19.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I just thought, I don't know. That kind of stood out to me. I thought of all teams, like I think Penn State's still a top 25 team, I think.
Yeah. I mean, last year, I mean, what did they? How many games?
They've lost what, 5 games 2 years in a row?
Yeah, and they were good. They were what? They got because they lose to Illinois the week before us, and they're undefeated up to that point, and they're looking really good. And everybody's thinking that's going to be a big matchup in Columbus, and and then they
gave a good game.
Yeah, I mean, our defense was our defense. I mean, No, right now I'm not surprised. They lost a lot last year. I mean, I didn't think he deserved the extension that he got, but I could be wrong.
Is he a fraud?
I'm leaning on fraud. There was a point when he first started coaching there. I'm like, he's a fraud, and then there was that stretch. Been like, man, he might be a better coach than I was giving him credit for. He's at least a good recruiter, and now I'm back to that he's a fraud. So like,
I can't disagree with you on that.
Yeah. So. Let me put it this way. I think there's a better chance, and I'm not even putting a high probability on this chance. I think there's a better chance that the coach up north that I thought was a fraud it could end up turning into a good coach that then I think that he that Franklin's not a fraud. So
I know like Harbaugh, his issue's been 2 or 3 teams that just always bite him in the ass. But I just don't see in today's, college football that it takes you to year 7 before you're finally a good coach.
I think that I'm not sold on them being a top 10 team right now. I mean, they
lost a lot on defense.
I know you get
on defense.
I know you get a lot of credit for what you did the year before. So like, I get why they're a top 10 team. But like, I think they have a lot to prove too. That can he duplicate it in a second year when if Ohio State's toughness is back and their defensive ability, their defensive front's back and stuff like that. I mean, you're not going to be able to do what they did last year to Ohio State.
Can you win a game when you're not winning by a score or 2?
Yeah, and there's plenty of teams that he's going to play on his schedule that they can play old school Michigan football against and beat that team. But if Ohio State fixes Ohio State's issues, Ohio State's is not one of them. And like that, I mean, and if the Buckeyes' issues are fixed, then Ohio State would have easily beat them last year if they weren't if those issues weren't there. I mean, we know you say I'm biased or whatever, and it's true. It's just Ohio State, they were a Swiss cheese defense that you could just push over and run through last year, and it ended up being what they were. And, if that is not the fact this year, then I just don't see where, I know people are saying, well, they have a really good receiving core and stuff like that.
Jim Harbaugh's got to get out of a huge comfort zone if he's going to exploit anyone secondary.
Yeah. Like, he's nowhere near to the point that, he needs, like, he's not even up to, when you think about, Tressel, Urban, and Ryan Day. I mean, Tressel's the most conservative. He's not even at Jim Tressel level to, like,
think about it. I mean, you got to replace your quarterback too.
Yeah.
If you're gonna talk about your receivers being dynamic and that going to be any sort of mismatch for Ohio State, JJ McCarthy has to be your quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with that. So
that's undeniable.
Yeah. Though.
All right.
I'm interested.
We can save that for a later.
I'm interested to see how they open up. They got the season.
A really easy schedule.
Yeah, they do. And it's just,
I think they'll lose to Iowa at Kinnick though. I really do.
Yeah, that will be. Is that their first big game?
Yeah, I think that's first. When do we play Iowa? 22nd?
Yeah, we play them.
Well, I mean,
we either play them
3rd week of October. I think,
we either play them.
It's the week before Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get on out of here for
All
tonight.
right, before we go another hour. Thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.